Tonight on the Beasley Cluster here, we'll have Bruins hockey coming up on 98.5, the Sports Hub, in just a little bit. Bees got the trade deadline tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? So the Bees in action tonight before the trade deadline tomorrow. And then we have the Celtics that will be on 105.7 WROR. That's coming up in just a little bit. They'll take on the 76ers. And the injury report is very, very long. So again, both games tonight. I got something on both coming up in just a little bit. I got about 30 minutes it takes here. So why don't we start it off with our leadoff take, which is brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. ESPN Bet Sportsbook. I don't think the Patriots will take a tackle at 4 based off the history of the NFL and tackles drafted at 4. Now, the biggest measurement that's out there when it comes to a threshold is arm measurements, and 33 is the number. That's the threshold. There was a report today that the Patriots like Will Campbell as tackle. If they, and listen, I don't know if they're going to, but my suggestion is at 4, no, and I'll tell you who has been selected 4th overall and why they shouldn't. But this today from Karen Gregan of Mass Live. The Patriots like Will Campbell, but it would be willing to try him at tackle first before moving him to guard if need be. He's been that impressive to some in the personnel department. I just don't want to deal with a tackle at the 4th overall pick that you think can play tackle. We saw this already with Isaiah Wynn. I watched Isaiah Wynn play in national championship games, college playoff games, and he was absolutely outstanding at tackle. Could he play the position in the NFL? No. And the last time he played was for the Dolphins, and they moved him to guard. So the Patriots cannot experiment on a guy that they like at tackle, and if they had to move him, they don't worry about it. Out on that. Gregan went on to say that if the Patriots love Campbell enough to draft him at number 4, then they can't come up empty in free agency, and when it comes to signing a proven veteran at left tackle. Quote, having a safety net veteran secured in free agency would make a selection of Campbell more palatable. So, again, if the Patriots get a proven player at left tackle, they may also utilize their highest picks on the same position. And I am out on that. Out. Now, Daniel Jeremiah today, he comes out with all the NFL draft rankings and the players. He has Campbell ranked 9th. Will Campbell. And this is an interesting quote here. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think Will Campbell's a bum. He's not. I still don't even know if he's the best tackle. I liked Banks from Texas. I like the kid Ursery from Minnesota. So those are at least the 2 guys that I like personally. But, you know, I'm not a GM. I'm just a guy who watches the games and bets on them. But the fact that you may, sign as Ronnie Stanley and then draft a Will Campbell, I'm out. Now, I know that works for teams like the Eagles who've done it year after year. But there's just, this team needs more talent. They can't sign a guy and then draft a guy for the same position. Out. Anyways, Daniel Jeremiah ranked Campbell as the 9th best player in the draft. His quote was, should start at tackle for a decade, provided if he stays healthy. On the rest of that list that I thought was fairly interesting, because as things get a little bit closer here to the draft, I know we're only like 40-something days away. Maybe trades could happen. I know some people are down on quarterbacks, but this Tyler Warren kid from Penn State did it all last year. I thought he was a top 10 player in the country. He checked in at 5 on Daniel Jeremiah's list. So I think the Patriots' primary free agent target should be Ronnie Stanley. He's the apple of their eye, says Mike Reese today. Love that, Mike. The Patriots will be competing against the Chiefs for Stanley if he hits free agency. I said that last night, and I didn't even know the report there was on the Chiefs. The Chiefs have let go of 2 free agents. They need help at tackle. I mean, if you're going to leave the Ravens, don't you want to go to a team that still can compete for a Super Bowl? Or you can get the bag with the Patriots And that's why yesterday's report about nobody wants to play in New England, it's like Siberia, was the quote, I believe, from Tommy Curran. Money, the money. That's what it's going to come down to. So, getting back to players drafted 4th overall. Tackles drafted 4th overall, and you can read this at 985thesportshub.com. Here's a list of every offensive lineman taking 4th overall since 2000. Now, Mike Williams of the Bills back in 2002, he's the one miss of this entire list. But his threshold for arms, 33.5. He ended up playing right tackle for the Texans later on. How about this name? Left tackle, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Had an arm length of 35.5, 4th overall pick. He played 10,707 snaps. He also played every snap of his career. Never an all-pro, but you know what? Damn good pick at 4. Went to 3 Pro Bowls. How about this one? In 2010, left tackle, Trent Williams had an arm length of 34.25. You could say he's the best left tackle in the league. First time he's been an all-pro in 16, 17, 21, 22, and 23. Now that's a guy you draft 4th overall at tackle. Not Will Campbell. Matt Khalil, drafted by the Vikings in 2012, left tackle. Nice player, made a Pro Bowl, started 82 games. Arm length, though, 34.5. You following along here? That's the threshold. This is a really good one. In 2013, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Lane Johnson. Arm length, 35.25 inch. Just won the Super Bowl for the Eagles. Outstanding pass and run blocker. He's been an all-pro twice. He's been a second-team all-pro 3 other times. Now that's a pick at tackle 4th overall. Just to give you a few more recent ones, Andrew Thomas in 2020 from the Giants. Guy's a monster. His arm length is 36.1. Now, he's had some injuries, but the Giants just gave him a 5-year, $117 million extension. They believe in the kid. He was 4th overall just back 4 years ago. But those are the names that go 4th overall that are tackles. So when you're looking at the Patriots and their need for a tackle, people want the name Will Campbell. But the 32.5-inch arms, out. Since 2011, the NFL has had 21 tackles drafted in the top 10 and only 3 guards drafted in the top 10. The Patriots cannot afford to take a guy that's not a sure tackle, specifically left tackle. The arm length, also a concern there. When we're talking 4th overall pick, people, you got to think franchise changers. Although he may be a top 9 player, the Patriots can't afford to take that player at 4th overall. History would tell you most guys pick 4th, hit as draft picks. The Patriots can't afford a miss in this year's draft. And just looking at it overall, I keep thinking that it's going to be a Travis Hunter type. But it's somehow, some way, they miss on Hunter or they miss on Abdul Carter. I don't know what Cleveland is going to do at the moment. And with all the money that's going around, Max Crosby getting his big deal, Joey Bosa getting released yesterday, why would the Browns want to move on from Myles Garrett at this point and just extend him? Again, it comes down to money. So I am curious with Myles Garrett, what happens there? Does he stay in Siberia, Cleveland because of the money? Or does he want to win somewhere else and take less? I'm interested to see that, but it's very similar to what's going on here in New England. So I did want to just bring up that list of guys that have been drafted 4th overall at tackle. Like, that's a pretty good list. DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Lane Johnson, Trent Williams. Those are franchise-altering tackles. And if you're watching what's going on right now, guys are getting released. They are available. The report yesterday that the Patriots didn't want to pay the price. We're in on Joe Thuney, but didn't want to give up a fourth next year or a, who knows, compensatory third the following year. They were out on it. They didn't want to pay the price. Here I am telling you that they need to spend on a tackle in free agency. Now I'm questioning what's the price. So in the end, I will tell you it comes down to the money. I think in the end, for the players, it comes down to the money. For the New England Patriots, still sounds like it's coming down to the money. Hopefully they don't want to take the Patriots deals. I think they need to be a little bit different this year. But to not be in on a next year's fourth-round pick for a guy that literally can play the position and in a pinch can move over, but the price is too high? I don't want to put a wet blanket on free agency for the Patriots because I'm pretty excited. They do have money to spend. But finding that they're out on guys like Christian Kirk today, I mean, I don't even know if it was reported they were in on it, but I'll bet you that they weren't going to give up what the Texans did. We'll leave it there at 617-779-0985. Also, Celtics last night did some things that have never happened in the history of the franchise. We'll give that to you coming up next. And I have Brad Marchand next team odds. Yep, they're out. BetOnline has them. I'll tell you what those are as we wrap things up here. I'm Joe Murray. You're listening to 98.5 The Sports Hub. All right, back here at 98.5 The Sports Hub. I'm Joe Murray. I do see some guys on the phone lines. If we can get to you, we will. We got about 10 minutes to go before we hand things over to Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers tonight. Got the Bees on the road in Carolina while the Celtics are at home versus the 76ers. And, man, we got a CVS receipt worth of an injury report there tonight. Hey, I just mentioned that if you go over to 98.5thesportsup.com, you can read that article we posted just regarding tackles drafted 4th overall. One other thing I wanted to mention is 98.5 The Sports has launched a new site dedicated to the off-season news and transactions impacting the Patriots in the NFL. It's offseason.985thesportsup.com. You can stay updated as free agency kicks off next week. The free agent tracker featuring Alex Barr's top 100 list. There's articles, podcasts, video reaction from the Sports Hub show. So you can find the Patriots off-season hub at offseason.985thesportsup.com. We have plenty of content there. And for those driving home right now, I know some people don't get to listen to our show. We're going to be on until 11 o'clock tonight. We just hand things over. We're here in between periods, and then we'll be on post-game until 11 o'clock. But everything we do here, it goes on YouTube. It's also on 985thesportsup.com, but you can just go right to it. So if you miss any parts of the show, you can just go right back to them there. So we have our NFL stuff happening. There's releases happening. Evan Ingram just released from the Jaguars. I mentioned earlier they traded Christian Kirk to the Texans. So now 2 other names at wide receiver are off the board. Deebo Samuel's off the board. Now Christian Kirk is off the board. And there's still stuff out there on DK Metcalf. We'll see what happens. A.J. Brown was chirping on social media today. Who knows what he's talking about either. But the Patriots so far have done nothing. And I hope that's not a sign of things to come. I did want to bring up last night's Celtics game. We worked the game. I took the Blazers. I'm sure people know that. They were 15-6 heading into the game. They were one of the better defensive teams in the league, and you would not know it based off 2 players with a 40-point performance last night. Derek White got things started. He was absolutely awesome early on. And then Peyton Pritchard was just throwing him up from everywhere. He was absolutely great. But Chauncey Billups, former Celtic, talked after the game. He's the head coach of the Blazers, the new city. I watched it last night, the first city show that they have on Max. It was really, really good. But he was talking about the Celtics and what they did last night. And he said, I'd be interested to know how many times guys made 9 threes in a game, or if it's ever happened. 2 guys. It hasn't. So not once in 45 years since the three-point line was basically introduced to the league, had 2 teammates made 9 three-pointers each. It never happened. Pritchard had 10. White had 9. They combined for 19. The most ever by a pair of teammates in a single game. But no. It didn't stop there. They set career highs. Pritchard had 43 points on 14 of 20. He went 10 of 16 from beyond the arc. White had 41. He went 14 of 26, 9 of 17 from 3. So just to bring this up one more time, Celtics teammates to each score 40 points never has been done in the 79-year history. The last player to do it, by the way, was Todd Day. It was in 1995 versus the Timberwolves. It was Kevin Garnett's rookie year. He came off the bench. And we looked up the starting 5. Rick Fox was in that starting 5. D. Brown, Dino Radja, Eric Montross. That was and Dana Barros was the point guard on that team. But Pritchard's 43 points set a new record for most ever scored by a Celtic off the bench. Larry Bird did 47 in an overtime game against the Bucks back in '85. So Todd Day, Larry Bird, Peyton Pritchard. Pritchard also added 10 rebounds, 5 assists, became the first player in NBA history to score 40, have 10 rebounds, make 10 threes in regulation. The guy made history last night. And he became the 4th Celtic to make at least 10 threes in a game. Marcus Smart has the record, believe it or not, at 11. Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser each did 10. but he's the first to accomplish the milestone as a reserve, and only the 9th player, bench player ever in NBA history to do it. So the Celtics are back at it tonight. The injury report is deep on both sides. So Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis are all out tonight versus the 76ers. So Jason Tatum and Sam Hauser are both questionable. I know Hauser hurt his ankle last night. So I don't know if he's going to play. And they play in the back-to-back, and then they have the Lakers on deck. So I think they've always been looking ahead to the Lakers. When do we start to be concerned about Kristaps Porzingis? I know that there are those people who say, who cares, keep him out for the playoffs, but he's been dealing with an illness. And I know when some guys deal with illnesses, it takes a little while to get back. I'll be concerned if he's not playing on Saturday night. At least it's not the typical injury that you're all aware of, right? He's 6. It's just something I want to keep my eye on. I have a little bit of a fear on that one, but I saw this number today, and I want to be consistent when it comes to the Celtics. I think they're going to win the championship. I think they're the best team in the league, but I think there are some things we should bring up. I mentioned the Porzingis is missing another game tonight. It will be the 68th game that Kristaps Porzingis has missed since the start of last season, and that includes the playoffs. So, Joe Math, since joining the Celtics, he has played in 68 of 164 games. That is 41%. Think about that. Porzingis has missed 41% of the Celtics' total games since joining the franchise. And I'm sure that everybody who's listening right now is completely fine with it if he's ready to go. In the playoffs, I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought that was very, very interesting. Did want to mention the Bruins who are coming up tonight. We'll hand things over in just a little bit to Ryan and Bob, but Brad Marchand next team odds. It's real now. If I was to bet on it, I don't think he gets moved. But there is a lot of chatter here regarding Sidney Crosby and regarding Brad Marchand. I don't know if that's really the case, if that will happen. That'd be a huge trade. I don't know. I will say this. Colorado is really interested in Marchand. And looking at the odds right now, Brad Marchand's next team odds at Bet Online, the Avalanche are the favorites to land Marchand at plus 150. The second favorite, Edmonton Oilers. I thought it was interesting to bring up that the Florida Panthers are on this, Dallas Stars, and Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know what's going to happen with Marchand. I'll just tell you this much. I just saw her a little while ago, and I want to say Ottawa also interested in Brad Marchand. I just saw this report, so I want to be accurate so I can have it for you. Yes, Chris Johnston on SN 590. The Ottawa Senators are among the teams who have called the Bruins about the status of Brad Marchand. Elliot Friedman also mentioned the Senators want Marchand, but in the case things don't work out on that front, they'll shift to somebody else. So we'll see how that goes. The Senators are a playoff team with Linus Ullmark. I don't know how real it is. Tis the season, right? Trade deadline season. And the Bees, they've lost 2 in a row. They've been struggling. We know it. They haven't been getting much offense outside of Pasternak. I think those woes continue tonight against Carolina. I think Boston won't be able to score against the goaltender for. And by the way, Carolina has been so dominant at home. They've been using somewhat of a dual goaltending situation, and it's working for them. But they're 23-7-1 at home this year. This will be the second meeting between the two teams. The Hurricanes won the last meeting 8-2. That was on Halloween night. There's a lot of pressure on the Bruins. Hurricanes, I mentioned, have been rotating those goaltenders. They're second in the Metro right now.